The champagne was already chilled when she walked through the door. I had spent 3 hours setting up our dining room, rose petals scattered across the mahogany table, her favorite candles flickering in the dimmed light, the playlist we danced to at our wedding humming softly in the background. 10 years of marriage, and I still got butterflies when I heard her key in the lock. "Happy anniversary, beautiful," I called out, adjusting my tie one last time. She didn't smile. She didn't even look at the romantic setup I'd spent half my paycheck perfecting. Instead, she dropped her purse by the door, looked me straight in the eyes, and said 5 words that shattered my world. "Marcus, I want a divorce." That was 3 months ago. What I discovered after she left made the divorce feel like a mercy killing compared to the brutal truth she'd been hiding. Hit that subscribe button right now, because what you're about to hear will make you question every relationship you've ever trusted. My name is Marcus, and for 10 years, I believed I was married to my soulmate. Lisa was everything I thought I wanted: intelligent, gorgeous, ambitious. She worked as a nurse at the Children's Hospital downtown while I busted my back running a small roofing company my grandfather started. We weren't rich, but we were building something together, or so I thought. The signs were there, screaming at me for months, but love makes you stupid. The late nights became routine. Emergency surgeries, she'd say, texting me at midnight that she wouldn't be home until morning. Weekend conferences that seemed to happen every other week. Phone calls she'd take in the bathroom, whispering like she was planning state secrets. But it was our anniversary. 10 years of marriage deserves celebration, not suspicion. I'd booked us a weekend at the mountain cabin where I'd proposed, bought her the pearl necklace she'd been admiring for months. I was ready to suggest we start trying for kids again, something we'd talked about for years but never seemed to find the right time for. Instead, she walked into our anniversary dinner and executed our marriage with the cold efficiency of a surgeon. "I need space to find myself," she said, not even bothering to sit down. "We've grown apart, Marcus. We want different things now. I think we both know this hasn't been working for a while." I stood there holding a bottle of Dom Perignon like an idiot, watching 10 years of my life crumble. "Lisa, what are you talking about? We can work through whatever this is. We can go to counseling, take that trip we've been planning." No, the word cut through the air like a blade. "I've already talked to a lawyer. I'll be staying at my sister's place until we figure out the details." She was gone within an hour, leaving me alone with wilted roses and the echo of promises that apparently meant nothing. 2 weeks of sleepless nights later, I made a decision that changed everything. Lisa had called asking to pick up some of her things while I was at work. Something in her voice, a nervous edge I'd never heard before, made me suspicious enough to do something I'm still ashamed of. I parked 3 blocks away and watched my own house like some pathetic stalker. Lisa arrived right on time, but she wasn't alone. A silver Mercedes pulled up behind her Honda, and out stepped a man I'd never seen before. Tall, expensive suit, the kind of watch that costs more than most people's cars. But what made my blood freeze wasn't his appearance. It was the way Lisa melted into his arms right there on my driveway. This wasn't a goodbye hug. This was the embrace of two people who'd been intimate for a very long time. They went inside together, and I sat in my truck for 45 minutes, hands shaking with rage and something worse, the dawning realization that my entire marriage had been a lie. When they came out, Lisa was carrying a single suitcase, but the man was holding a box I recognized: our wedding photo albums and the jewelry box where she kept her grandmother's rings. As they drove away together, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The Mercedes had a parking sticker for St. Mary's Children's Hospital, the same hospital where Lisa worked, the same hospital where she claimed to be having all those emergency surgeries. That night, I did something that destroyed what little remained of my self-respect. I drove to St. Mary's and waited in the parking lot like a crazy person. At 11 p.m., I saw them leaving together, Lisa and Mr. Mercedes, holding hands, laughing about something that was apparently hilarious. I followed them to an upscale restaurant downtown, then watched through the window as they shared what was obviously a romantic dinner. The way he touched her face, the way she looked at him, this wasn't some new fling. This was love. Real, deep, established love. The kind of love I thought she'd had with me. I confronted her the next day, called her at work, and demanded we meet immediately. "You want to know the truth, Marcus?" she said when I cornered her in the hospital parking lot. "Fine. His name is Dr. Richard Sterling. He's the head of pediatric surgery, and yes, we've been together for 3 years. 3 years, Marcus. Not 3 weeks, not 3 months, 3 goddamn years." The words hit me like physical blows. 3 years? Lisa, how could I what? Fall in love with someone who actually understands my world? Someone who doesn't smell like roofing tar and beer every night? Someone who can hold an intelligent conversation about something other than football and fishing? Her voice was getting louder, and other hospital staff were starting to stare. She didn't care. "Richard and I are getting married next month," she continued, each word designed to cause maximum damage. "We've already put a down payment on a house in Westfield. The divorce papers were just a formality. I've been done with this marriage for years." I felt like I was drowning. Years? Lisa, what about everything we built together? What about wanting kids? What about what, Marcus? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "What about watching you turn into your father? Coming home exhausted, cracking open a beer, falling asleep on the couch watching TV? What about living in that same tiny house, driving the same old truck, having the same conversations day after day? That tiny house is our home. I love the idea of you," she cut me off. "When we were 25, you seemed adventurous, ambitious. But you never grew, Marcus. You never evolved. Richard takes me to Europe twice a year. He's published medical research. He's saving children's lives. What have you accomplished? You fix roofs." The contempt in her voice was like acid. This woman I'd worshipped, who I'd have died for, was looking at me like I was something she'd scraped off her shoe. "I gave you everything I had," I whispered. "Everything you had wasn't enough," she replied without hesitation. "It was never going to be enough." But the worst was yet to come. That weekend, I ran into Lisa's sister Jennifer at the grocery store. Jennifer had always been kind to me, and I could see the guilt written all over her face. "Marcus, I'm so sorry," she started. "I never agreed with what Lisa was doing, but she's my sister, and what do you mean, what she was doing?" Jennifer looked like she wanted to disappear. "The affair. It started way before 3 years ago, Marcus. It's been going on since your 5th anniversary. Maybe longer." The ground shifted beneath my feet. "That's impossible. We were happy 5 years ago. We were trying to have a baby." "She was never trying to have a baby with you," Jennifer said quietly. "She'd been on birth control the entire time, Marcus. She told me she couldn't stand the thought of being tied to you permanently through a child." I actually staggered backward. 5 years. Half our marriage had been a complete fabrication. "There's more," Jennifer continued, tears in her eyes. "The miscarriages she told you about, they never happened. She was terminating pregnancies, Marcus. She didn't want to have your children." I vomited right there in the cereal aisle of the grocery store. The final knife came 2 months later during our divorce proceedings. Lisa's lawyer presented evidence that she'd been systematically moving money out of our joint accounts for over 2 years, hiding assets, even taking out credit cards in my name. The woman I'd loved had been methodically destroying my financial future while playing house with another man. "Why?" I asked her during one of our final meetings. "Why didn't you just leave? Why did you have to destroy everything?" She looked at me with those same green eyes I'd fallen in love with, and for a moment I thought I might see some remorse, some acknowledgement of the pain she'd caused. Instead, she shrugged. "Because I could." That was 6 months ago. Today, I'm sitting in a one-bedroom apartment, driving a used car, and rebuilding a credit score that Lisa demolished. The roofing business barely survived. Turns out it's hard to focus on work when your entire world explodes. But here's what I learned about consequences. They don't just affect the betrayed. Dr. Richard Sterling's wife, yeah, he was married too, took him for everything in their divorce. Lisa's dream house in Westfield, gone. Her fairy tale wedding, canceled when his ex-wife's lawyer froze all his assets. Lisa lost her job at the hospital when their affair became public knowledge. Turns out the hospital has strict policies about relationships between supervisors and subordinates. Richard was demoted and transferred to a different department. Jennifer told me Lisa's been calling, crying, saying she made a mistake, that she wants to work things out. Apparently, Richard turned out to be just as selfish as she was, and when the going got tough, he bailed. The woman who destroyed our marriage because I wasn't enough is now working nights at a different hospital, living in a studio apartment, and facing bankruptcy from legal fees. Sometimes karma works fast, but here's the thing about betrayal: it changes you permanently. I'll never again trust someone completely. I'll never again believe that love conquers all. The naive romantic who spent 3 hours setting up anniversary dinners? He's dead. In his place is someone harder, more cautious, but also more honest about what people are capable of. I've started dating again, slowly, carefully, and I've found that women appreciate a man who doesn't make promises he can't keep. Lisa taught me that some people are capable of breathtaking cruelty disguised as love, but she also taught me that I'm stronger than I ever imagined. Surviving that level of betrayal doesn't break you if you don't let it. It just teaches you never to settle for someone who sees you as not enough. The consequences of her betrayal will follow both of us for years. The difference is, I'm using mine to build something better. She's just living with the wreckage of what she destroyed. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because unfortunately, stories like mine happen every day. But remember, the person who betrays you doesn't get to decide your worth. Only you do. And sometimes the end of your worst chapter is just the beginning of your best one.